In Solo Leveling, Chairman Go Gun-hee reflects on Byung-goo's sacrifice when he receives a call about a B-rank gate opening in the middle of the road. Knowing that a B-rank gate isn't something an average attack squad can handle, he decides to contact a large guild. However, he learns the location is near Jinwoo's new office. Jinwoo, wondering what Mrs. Sellner saw in him, notices the unusual traffic and receives a call from Chairman Go. The chairman informs him about the B-rank gate and asks if he can take care of it. Jin questions what about permission. The chairman laughs, saying that the permission comes from him. As the new stations secure the poorly positioned gate, an agent shouts at a man before realizing it's S-rank hunter Sung Jinwoo. The agent explains to Jin that even as an S-rank, he must follow protocol and cannot enter without a team, even if he has special permission. Jinwoo calls the chairman and hands the phone to the nervous agent. When asked who it is, Jin replies, "Someone you can't argue." Realizing it's the chairman, the agent quickly takes the call as Jinwoo steps into the gate. Hoping Jinwoo will stumble, the agent is stunned when the gate suddenly turns red, questioning if his own wish caused it. Jinwoo remains calm and notes that the gate feels like a red gate, realizing he may need to push himself a little. A flashback shows Jinwoo's mother explaining that the awakening couldn't be prevented, and as an S-rank, he will have to save countless lives just like his father. She recounts how his father inspired her love when he risked himself to save others. She advises Jin not to overexert himself, and Jin finds comfort in knowing she doesn't oppose his path as a hunter. Back in the present, Jinwoo confidently states the task will be completed within a day. His lower-level shadows charge forward, while mage-class shadows cast explosive spells that devastate the monsters. The rest of the shadow army joins in. Igris drives his blades through a monster's head. Iron crushes another. Tusk and Tank unleash thunderous roars, while Baru strikes fear into the remaining enemies. As the battle winds down, Jinwoo's shadows kneel in respect as he walks through the battlefield, calmly stating, "Let's move on to the next target." A hunter gasps to catch his breath before asking, "What are you?" Sillid says that he isn't one either. They're cleverly concealing the fragments of brilliant light. The blue grandpa senses a presence and turns to see Yogamont, who says he's here to deliver information regarding the territory in the east. Sillid verifies, asking if he means the small eastern territory where the Shadow Monarch currently is. Yogamont explains that it appears the rulers plan to release Legia south of that area, so he will handle that region instead. He adds that as long as the architect performs its role properly, there shouldn't be any issues. Yogamon then brings up more intriguing news. It has been confirmed that the greatest fragment of brilliant light is located there. The Blue Elder chuckles, amused that Yogamont came just to tell him that. Yogamont asks what he plans to do. The Elder replies that if Yogamund is willing to give it up, then he'll gladly accept it. He suspects they were drawn here deliberately. Someone like that shouldn't possibly have a fragment of brilliant light. A hooded figure steps closer, clearly intending to block their path. The hooded man asks if the small eastern territory they mentioned refers to Korea. The Blue Elder questions why that would matter to him. Yogamont tells the Monarch of Frost that they don't have time to waste. The Frost Monarch challenges the man to stop them if he can. As they walk toward a gate, the hooded man summons his daggers and charges, shouting, "I won't let you escape!" Swinging his blades, he slashes at the Monarch, who quickly forms an ice barrier to block it. The Blue Elder grins as the man stands firm, and a massive explosion erupts. Back inside the red gate, a monster asks if Jin is the one who has been slaughtering all of his brothers, calling him impressive for reaching this far and for being able to speak their language. He shouts that this is the end, yelling for his comrades to come out of hiding, but nobody comes forward. The boss freezes in confusion. Jin laughs, saying that's funny, and commands his shadow army to come forth. Suddenly, the boss is struck in the head by an object. He catches the object and opens his hand. It's a severed head thrown by Baru. Before Jin even gives the order to kill, his shadows launch forward, ripping through the tribal monsters. Jin calmly walks toward the boss. Two guards rush to intercept him, but Tank effortlessly swipes them out of the way. The boss screams, and in that instant, Baru and Igris attack simultaneously. Baru tears off the monster's arm, and Igris slices his leg clean, dropping him to the ground. Tusk chants the Hymn of Giants and unleashes gravitational magic, smashing the boss into the earth. Jin approaches and says, "Answer my questions. It'll hurt less if you cooperate." But Jin learns nothing, concluding that the system is interfering again. Reaching into his inventory, he says it's fine. He'll learn anyway. Jin pulls out the key he acquired from the magic box. Now that he has reached level 100, part of the key's information has been revealed. During the Jeju Island raid, Jin discovered the key's name and purpose. It grants access to the Kartanon Temple, which will be disclosed after after a set period. Jinwoo says he could never forget the Cartonon Temple, no matter how hard he tried. He thinks back to the double dungeon as he stands in front of the system screens. It's calling him back to where everything began. But this time things are different. If all of this was planned from the start, if it's waiting for him to return, then in that case, wait for me. Someone knocks on the door of Jinwoo's office. Jin-ho opens, and a voice asks if this is Sung Jinwoo's guild office. Jin-ho confirms, but as he peeks to see, he freezes after seeing S-rank hunter Cha Hai-in standing there. Jinwoo asks why she's at his office, and she calmly says she wants to join his guild. After sitting down, Jin asks her to repeat it, and she confirms that she wants to join. Jinwoo can't understand and wonders if the chairman forced her or if Choi Jong-in kicked her out of his guild. She says no. Jinwoo then asks why she would want to join their solo player guild. Disgusted, Cha questions the name, and Jinwoo says that's the name they agreed on. But Jin-ho jumps in, surprised the name was already decided, and brings up his ideas again. Jinwoo replies that the vice guild master didn't object, so he assumed he agreed. Jin-ho tries to calm himself down, thinking he's losing focus because of the situation. Jinwoo realizes, judging by her expression, that Cha is trying to act composed, but she can't fool him. He asks why she is going through all of this to join their solo play guild, mentioning it hasn't even been 2 years since her awakening, and asks if she is still under contract with the Hunters Association. She responds that she has enough money to pay the penalty for breaking the contract. Jinwoo notes that she's even willing to pay to join, and tells her that his guild doesn't have the budget to pay someone of her level, but she says she doesn't need a signing bonus. The guild master asks why she's going this far when joining his guild won't benefit her. Cha thinks about how to explain it, realizing he'd think she was insane if she spoke honestly. First, she was drawn to his scent, pulled by curiosity, even when she resisted thinking about him. To her, he became the only light in a dark world. Trying to speak, she melts down right in front of him, leaving Jinwoo wondering what she's hiding. He asks why she can't just answer, and seeing her blush confirms she's hiding something. He asks again if she'll answer, and she blurts out that she wants to live comfortably. Jinwoo thinks that Cha is only around 22 or 23 years old, and that carrying the weight of an S-rank hunter must be exhausting. Jinwoo says it's a new rule, and that the vice guild master must have forgotten to mention it. He then tells Jin-ho to get drinks and snacks for their guest. Cha asks what kind of test it is. Jinwoo tells her she must defeat a summon of his choice. Cha questions if his evaluation of her is really that low and demands to know which summon. Jinwoo replies, "For you, Hunter Cha, I'll choose the strongest." After Hunter Cha declares she wants to join Jinwoo's guild, she asks when they can proceed with the entrance test. Jin suggests they can do it immediately at the association's gymnasium. At this moment, he considers testing whether his shadow exchange skill can transport 2 people. As Cha prepares to walk out the door, Jinwoo stops her, saying there's an easier way to get there, but they'll need to stay close together. The Rizzler wraps his arm around the flustered hunter and uses shadow exchange. The lights flick on in the gymnasium as Rizwoo and Hunter Cha arrive. Cha is stunned by the teleportation. Jinwoo thinks to himself, I was right. Realizing shadow exchange works like a gate, his location becomes the entrance, and his shadow becomes the exit. Jinwoo says, let's begin, but Mommy Cha suddenly remembers she forgot her weapon. Jin teases, pickaxe. Completely embarrassed, she blushes, remembering that was the first weapon he ever saw her use. Cha tells him that's not her weapon, and he laughs, saying he was just kidding. Still shy, she says there should be a decent weapon available. After unlocking the storage room with her card, she mentions the weapons aren't the best, more suitable for sparring. I'm ready, she says, walking out with a sword. Jinwoo asks if she's okay with it, noting it's not her usual sword and might not be ideal. She responds that it doesn't matter what weapon she uses, because monsters don't fight on equal terms anyway. Jinwoo agrees, thinking that if he summoned an ordinary soldier, they'd be destroyed in seconds. He then summons Igris, saying he's the most skilled swordsman among his shadows. Cha asks how the match will be decided. Jin tells her they'll fight until she can destroy his summon or she surrenders. Though he promised Hunter Cha he'd use his strongest summon, he thinks fighting Baru would be too much. Mommy Cha prepares for battle when Jin suddenly remembers she said weapons don't matter, and asks if Cha can turn around while he discusses something with a confused Igris. This is when he grants Igris the S-rank Demon King's longsword. Igris walks towards Mommy Cha and slashes, sending a storm of white lightning towards her. However, she dodges with ease. Jinwoo observes her speed, noting that a normal person would have died even if they were just grazed. Mommy Cha's sword collides with Igris's, sparks flying as their blades clash. At that moment, Chairman Go notices that the gym lights are on. Strange, there shouldn't be any reservations today. He calls his assistant and asks to have the gymnasium's camera feed displayed in his office. As the footage shows Jinwoo and Hunter Cha entering the gym, he raises an eyebrow. When did those two start meeting? He recalls the Jeju raid and thinks he's been slow to catch on. Realizing what's happening, he instructs his assistant to turn off all the cameras in the gymnasium and write it as inspection day. Back in the gym, Jinwoo was shocked as Igris lies defeated. Hunter Cha asks, the Black Knight was really his strongest summon? Didn't you say you'd call out your strongest summon? Please summon him. Jinwoo looks at her with concern as he warns, you might get hurt. Cha responds with determination, it's fine. I wanted to fight him again. Surprised, Jinwoo questions, you knew? Cha tells him she saw it in person and on the videos. In this moment, Jinwoo calls forth Baru. Cha grows increasingly nervous as Baru's shadow rises. Jinwoo asks again, will you really be okay? After Jin summons Baru, we learn that shadow soldiers are weaker than when they were alive. However, Baru was specifically born to be a weapon for eliminating hunters. If they properly fight, Mami Cha's odds aren't looking good. Baru asks what Jinwoo wants him to do with Hunter Cha, and he tells the ant to defeat her without harming her. Baru unleashes a piercing screech, shattering every window in the gym. Mami Cha nervously wonders how Jin ever managed to fight this creature. Baru extends his claws, but Jin quickly steps in and tells him to put those away. I won't forgive you if you hurt her. Baru retracts his claws and Mami Cha spots a moment to strike, yet Baru almost instantly appears behind her again. She whips around, slashing her sword and saying, do you think I'm falling for the same trick twice? But Baru grabs her blade and flicks it aside, thinking I have only one order, defeat the opponent without injuring her. Knowing he must crush her morale by showing an overwhelming gap in strength, he prepares to act. Mami Cha thrusts her weapon toward Baru, but he dodges effortlessly. She aims another strike, and he avoids that one as well. Not yet, she thinks, and swings again. Baru simply bends backward like he's playing limbo, astonishing Cha as he evades every attack without lifting his feet from the floor. He then closes the distance, roaring right in Cha's face and forcing her backward with nothing but his overwhelming presence. Jinwoo comments that the outcome is already clear. Are you satisfied now? But Cha replies, I can continue. This confuses Jin, who questions why she's pushing herself so hard, assuming she would give up once she saw the massive power gap. Baru stands apart from the rest of the shadows. Despite his intelligence, his core nature is that of a killing machine. Rage stirs inside Baru, as any living being can sense with just a glance whether it is prey or predator. Yet Mami Cha refuses to back down. Baru lunges at her, claws swiping, but she narrowly avoids him, sliding aside as he digs his claws into the wall and prepares another assault. Hunter Cha activates her skill, Sword Dance. After Mami Cha barely dodges Baru's claws, she uses her skill Sword Dance, slashing her sword, but Baru grabs it, shattering the blade. However, in this moment, Cha thinks to herself that this is her one chance, and she can only use it once, but that's all she needs. This is when she uses her skill Blade of Light and stabs the shadow soldier. But something feels off as Jinwoo shouts, no, because right then, an old command awakens inside Baru's mind, rising again like pure instinct. He cannot resist it. Eliminate the enemy. Baru raises his claws to strike Mami Cha as Jin cries out for him to stop, the blades closing in fast. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes as it's revealed that Jinwoo grabbed Baru's arm just in time, astonishing Cha as he steps on one hand. He scolds the ant, saying he told him to stop. Baru quickly retreats while Jin checks if Hunter Cha is unharmed. The ant kneels, begging for forgiveness as the Shadow Monarch exhales in frustration. Jin then asks Cha why she's pushing herself so extremely just to enter the guild. She looks away as he reminds her it's only an entrance exam for a guild without even a proper name yet. There's no need to risk her life. Why is she going to such lengths? She stares down at the floor, and Jin wonders if she's going to stay silent again. What could it be? Perhaps are you interested in me? Cha freezes for a moment before realizing what he implied. She quietly admits, yes, I think so. The United States Hunter Bureau. Michael Connor and Norma Selner bow their heads and apologize to the director for not being able to flip Jinwoo. However, David Brennan says he didn't call them there for an apology and wants a breakdown of what happened. Michael explains that according to Selner's observation, Sung Jinwoo is a king. This revelation shocks the director, who questions if this means Jin has the power of a national-level hunter. Selner goes on to explain that awakened individuals receive their strength from the other side, and she can feel their link with other realm. At times, the energy from the other side is so intense that awakened people seem wrapped in a radiant glow. Those individuals are known as kings, but in his case, there was no such connection. When she gazed into his eyes, the darkness that stared back wasn't normal. It was terror itself. David asks if she is suggesting Jinwoo is evil, but Selner quickly clarifies that she is not judging his morals. She stresses that Jin doesn't draw power from the other side, but from within, which means he has no limits. Michael confirms that there is truly no ceiling to Jin's strength. At that point, the director stands up and thanks Lady Selner, prompting Michael to ask where he's heading. David replies, floor B24, instructing the deputy director to accompany him. Inside the elevator, David outlines their next move, explaining that if they cannot use Selner's power to sway Jinwoo, they'll need another approach to secure his cooperation. He asks Michael if he remembers the very first S-rank gate incident. Michael responds immediately, the disastrous dungeon break that wrecked the western United States. Out of all the elite hunters the US assembled with massive rewards, only 5 survived. These 5 were given the title of national-level hunter. David continues, bringing up the undying flame, the dragon Kamish, a creature that annihilated countless top-tier hunters. He asks Michael if he'd believe such a terrifying monster left behind a gift. lift. He enters a code, and the door slides open with a hiss as he says, "Look!" Inside lies a rune stone retrieved from Kamish's corpse. It has remained sealed away for 8 years since the Kamish raid. Because none of the national-level hunters were mages, the stone has been waiting all this time for a proper wielder. The director declares that Kamish will once again offer a priceless gift to the nation. On a freaky day in solo leveling, Sung Jinwoo looks in the mirror and observes that he's definitely taller and in better shape after reawakening, but questions if he's really that handsome. Jin figures out it must be because of Will of Rehabilitate, which restores all damaged body parts, thus explaining why all his blemishes are gone due to the buff. Feeling freaky, Jin pops out of the bathroom and asks his stepsister Jenna how he looks to her as a man. She questions his sudden confidence, and before this becomes the next My Family Pies episode, tells him he still looks like a total bum in her eyes. As she kicks him away, Jin warns her that with his new S-rank physique, she might actually hurt herself, and wonders if she even thinks before acting. What? I'm at the top of my class. He then brings up the idea of forming his own guild and asks for her thoughts on the name Solo Player. Completely unimpressed, Jenna asks if he's joking and why he'd pick something like that. When he asks if it sounds strange, she points out that his power literally revolves around summoning shadows, so technically he's anything but solo. Realizing she's right, Jin asks what name would work instead. She suggests Ajin Guild, explaining that A means I and Jin means to move forward, and also mentioning that it conveniently matches her name backward. Jin admits it's actually pretty decent. Meanwhile, over at Mommy Cha's apartment, she flops onto her bed, kicking her legs as embarrassment floods in. She keeps replaying what she blurted out to Jin at the gym. Did I basically confess? She groans. Remembering his reaction, she panics, thinking Jin will see her as some unhinged woman. Trying to calm herself, she convinces herself that it's only natural to feel something for the man who literally saved her life. It's fine, she tells herself, then immediately spirals again. No, it's not fine. It's absolutely not fine, she mutters, wriggling around like she's short-circuiting. She then remembers she technically survived thanks to Byung-goo's healing. At that moment, a voice echoes in her mind. Please tell him. She suddenly recalls the moment in limbo, floating, fading, hearing someone call out. A shadowed hand reached toward her as the voice repeated, please tell him he needs to know. The figure pulls her in and reveals itself as Min Byung-gu. Tell Hunter Sung Jinwoo. Tell him he must be cautious of his own power. Cha jolts upright, realizing that she really did see Byung-gu's spirit back then. Jin watches footage of a massive A-rank gate that appeared while Park Jong-soo explains that the physical size of a gate and its rank don't always match. However, there is an overwhelming amount of mana spilling out of the gate. Jin asks if it was confirmed to be an S-rank, and Jong-soo replies that it's just barely within an A-rank's measurement range. He mentions that it's the biggest gate to ever appear in Busan. This makes Jin think about meeting Lee Ju-hee in Busan to grab some sushi, while Jong-soo explains that the association is trying to refuse their entry because they don't have an S-rank hunter. He says that if Jin joins their attack squad, they'll be able to handle the raid and Jin will be generously rewarded. Usually, S-rank hunters receive around 10% of the raid profit, but he's offering Jin 20% for this dungeon. Let's do 50-50, Jin answers. This completely shocks the guildmaster. Jin says he should be treated as a guild and not as a solo individual. Park Jong-soo attempts to negotiate for a 60-40 split, but Jin instantly rejects it. Park Jong-soo thinks to himself how Jin looks young, yet behaves in a very unordinary way. Alright then, would you handle the boss-level monsters? Jin agrees, and the Knights Guild Master tells him that it's been nearly a week since the gate first showed up, so they must begin the raid tomorrow. Yuntai notices something strange. He wonders if Park Jong-soo just saw Jin's shadow move, but he brushes it off, asking if Yuntai has been drinking. Right then, Jin's phone rings with an unknown number, so he excuses himself to answer. He steps outside, picks up the call, and discovers it's his mom, who just bought a new cell phone. She tells him she simply wanted to hear his voice, apologizing if she disturbed anything. Not at all, Jin says, inviting her to have dinner together that night, and she joyfully agrees. The next day in Gwangnali, Busan, the Knights Guild hunters stand together waiting for the raid to begin. Park Jong-soo is irritated, saying they should have made Jin join them yesterday, hoping he won't show up late since they start in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Jin observes the gloomy weather, wondering if Jin brought her umbrella before using shadow exchange. At school, 3 students walk through the hallway, grumbling about the art teacher making them collect supplies. How many plaster figures do we need to bring? There are 6 groups. Even if we take one, we'll need to come back. Let's just grab 4. One boy complains about the dust and asks when the last time this room was used, and another replies that it probably hasn't been touched all semester. Suddenly, one boy grows uneasy as he notices a gate at the back of the room. His friend walks up to it and asks why he's so scared. Since closed gates are considered completely safe, hunters can go in, but nothing inside can come out. He adds that it usually takes about a week for a gate to open. Didn't you say this room was ignored for the whole semester, and now it's just being discovered? He says. Without warning, the gate cracks open, and a green hand grabs the student by the head and lifts him off the ground. As he kicks around, he screams for his friends to help while the grip tightens. The students freeze in horror as their classmate they were just speaking with is killed, and monsters start crawling out of the gate. Orcs walk through the gate, and we learn that they are naturally gifted hunters. Although they lack intelligence, they far exceed humans in tracking and hunting. These hunters were greatly excited by the smell of flesh and blood, but they suppressed their instincts and prioritized their mission. They remained hidden in the shadows for an entire entire week, their senses reacting even before they located their targets. The Orsi declares that the hunt will begin now and orders its comrade to summon their kin. It bursts through the doorway, proclaiming that they will slaughter every human inside this fortress and secure the area before the true hunt starts. First, we'll wipe out this entire place, it growls while staring at the students gathered in the hall. A boy hands a drink to a girl, but both freeze when they hear a loud thud and spot a green creature swinging an axe toward them. Back at the gate, Jin observes how massive it looks up close. He points out the collection squad, the mining crew, and the assault team, made up of 13 A ranks and 20 B ranks. Moving through the gathered hunters, Jin finds himself surprised by the unusually high number of A rank individuals present. "Excuse me," someone mutters. Several hunters crowd around Jin with questions, and a woman chimes in, suggesting Jin might be leading the raid today. Immediately, Yurim intervenes, asking why they're putting pressure on Hunter Sung. She introduces herself as the head healer of the Knights Guild assault team and explains that the raid commander and the main healer should always work in sync. Jin glances toward Park Jong-soo, saying he hasn't explained anything yet. Jong-soo replies that he can clarify right now. He announces that he will be the raid leader for this operation. Some hunters look let down as the guildmaster follows up by saying Jin will oversee the rear. "Do we look so weak that we need someone else guarding us?" One hunter protests, questioning whether the elite fighters of the Knights Guild seem that fragile to Sung Jinwoo. Jong-soo laughs, saying his members are bold, and although the comment was a bit harsh, that kind of energy is normal for them. Jin replies that it simply shows their confidence. Checking his phone, Jong-soo tells everyone it's time to move out as the raid officially begins. A student frantically calls the Hunters Association emergency hotline, reporting that there are monsters outside of their school. The worker on the other end asks, "Where are you calling from?" The girl, drenched in blood and shaking uncontrollably, whispers that she's hiding inside the bathroom. Tears roll down her cheeks as she stutters, "I was with my friend, but my friend. How many monsters are there? Are they close?" The girl nervously replies that she can't tell. "There are too many screams." She sobs, asking if she's going to die. The worker tries to calm her, assuring her that hunters are already on the way. "Our hunters would never leave students behind, so please stay calm until help arrives. Do you understand?" More screams echo through the phone as the girl whimpers, "Really? Am I gonna live?" Trying to gather more details, the worker asks if she knows what kind of monsters are attacking. The girl hesitates, saying she saw them on TV before but can't remember their name. The worker urges her to describe them. "What do they look like?" The girl stammers, "Their bodies look human, but their faces are twisted. They're green skin." Realization hits the worker and she asks if they're orcs. "Yes, that's it, orc." At that moment, an orc reaches the bathroom. The worker, panic rising, shouts for her to get away quickly. Orcs can smell. Before she can finish, the girl's phone drops as she screams for help, crying, "I don't want to die." Her final cries echo as the worker sits frozen. Outside, students run in terror as blood splashes across the walls. They rush off the school grounds while a girl shouts that her friends are still inside. A boy pulls her away, saying hunters will handle it. Blood drips from the orcs' axes as one growls about losing half their prey. On the upper floor, students huddle inside a barricaded classroom as two boys nervously guard the entrance. Suddenly, the barricade bursts open and a blood-soaked orc stomps in. A student sprints toward the second barricade, but an orc hiding nearby swings its axe, cutting him down instantly. More orcs enter as Baldy tells his boss that someone inside has magic energy. The boss snarls, "Kill that one first." At the back of the room, Gina and Song Yi stand trembling, Gina whispering prayers for her brother. Gina screams, "Don't do this," while she pulls her friend. However, Song Yi stands bravely reassuring Gina, "I'm awakened too, even though I'm only an E rank." The orc pauses, trying to figure out whether it's human or something else. Other orc noting that there's an even stronger magical presence nearby as his gaze shifts toward Gina. "It's that woman! Die!" he roars while swinging his blade at the girls. Horrified, they squeeze their eyes shut, preparing for the worst, until suddenly one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers erupts from Jinna's shadow. Holding the orc's arm, Jinna trembles and tearfully asks if Jinwoo's here. The shadow creature winds up a punch and launches an uppercut that sends the green orc flying. The remaining orc freeze as 3 high orc shadows form a protective wall. Back inside the dungeon, Jung-soo shouts as a twin-headed ogre storms around the corner. The grotesque beast bellows, swinging its massive axe, and Jung-soo activates his ability to form a barrier. The ogre's blade screeches across the ground before smashing into his shield. While Jung-soo holds the blow, he signals Yun-tai, who scurries up the creature's weapon, gouging at its eyes before calling for Nuna and Hyung to deal damage. The duo charges in and sever the monster's arms, and 2 mages instantly follow up with spells, shocking and scorching the ogre until it's completely roasted. When the ogre collapses, Jung-soo tells the team to regroup and continue forward. He explains that, just as expected, this raid won't be simple, encountering a twin-headed ogre right at the beginning. "Do you know what these ogres are usually called?" he asks Jinwoo. "Gravekeepers." The Shadow Monarch replies correctly, adding that it's manageable when they appear as bosses, but if one shows up at the entrance, it means the dungeon will mostly contain undead monsters. Yun-tai shouts that Jung-soo jinxed them and wonders if they should continue, but the undead army simply stands still, making the hunters question why they're behaving strangely since they normally attack immediately. Someone wonders if the undead look like they're fleeing from something. Jinwoo sighs, disappointed, since he expected the toughest A-rank dungeon. Suddenly, a strange sensation hits him. Jinwoo frowns. This feeling, it can't be. He quickly tells the guild master that he must leave because an urgent issue has come up. Jongsu hesitates, warning that the group might be in danger if Jinwoo leaves them now. Jinwoo reassures him, saying he'll leave someone just as reliable, and that he'll handle things from this point on. The hunters stare in disbelief as Baru arrives. Jinwoo says there's no need to explain since they've already recognized it. He'll take my place. Protect the humans, Jin commands. Baru shakes his head and asks what he should do with the non-humans. His master simply tells him to act however he wishes. With a chilling screech, Baru leaps forward, causing the hunters to question how they're supposed to raid with such a monster. Jin then summons 20 more ant soldiers to help before attempting to dip out of there. However, Jongsu and Yerim stop him, questioning if he's really just leaving after letting those monsters loose. Feeling irritated, Jin glances back and says he can pull them back before heading out if they really want, but insists they'd actually be safer with the shadows around. Jongsu shudders and hesitantly admits that he's right. Jinwoo checks the cooldown on his shadow exchange and realizes there's still an hour and 40 minutes left. Jongsu stays behind, uneasy, while Yuntai nervously asks what they should do next. Hold on, let me think, Jongsu replies. As Jin rushes through the chambers, worry grows inside him because he keeps receiving urgent signals from the shadows guarding Gina. Suddenly, undead creatures block his route, and he clenches his teeth in frustration. Get out of my way, he shouts, drawing his daggers. But instead of attacking, the undead bow before him. He assumes it's because his necromancer class outranks whoever is controlling them. He leaps upward, calls out Kaisel, and flies straight through the gate. Outside, civilians stare in amazement as Jin's shadow wyvern soars across the sky at full speed toward his sister. The shadow orcs brutally chop a green orc in half, while Gina's guard grips two of them by the head and smashes them into the floor simultaneously. As the green orcs lay there smashed and dismembered, the students are left in shock, still trying to process the fact that these monsters are protecting them. Gina looks at the orc shadow soldier, wondering if it's Jinwoo's, and begins calling for him while walking forward. However, the shadow stops her and points forward to the many more orcs approaching. The gate completes its fracture, and with the final bindings broken, Groktar, chief of the Red Blade tribe, proclaims that nothing stands in his path anymore. When one of his warriors informs him that 3 High Orc are siding with the humans, he scoffs in outrage at the idea that his mighty fighters can't overpower just 3 of their own kind. Lead the way, he roars as he seizes his blade. Let the slaughter begin. Deep inside the dungeon, ants scuttle across the walls, heightening the hunter's anxiety and making some wish to withdraw from the raid entirely. Yuntai calls out to Jongsu, but he refuses to stop, insisting they can't back out now, or they'll have no answers for the reporters waiting outside. We can't just turn tail because a few summons spooked us. Keep moving. Without warning, Baru materializes before Jongsu, his very presence sending shivers through him. Let's go, he mutters nervously. Jongsu nervously asks, shall we go? Baru blinks out of sight, reappearing in an instant right in front of Jongsu, dropping him to the ground in terror. Baru casually tosses something toward Jongsu's feet before walking off with the other ants. The guild members rush over to help Yong up, asking whether they should follow the creatures or stay put. Look at this, he says, revealing the severed head of a Death Knight, one of the highest tier monsters wiped out instantly. Jongsu comments on the rare value of magic cores from high-ranked dungeons and challenges the others to reconsider quitting now. Before he notices, the strike force has already marched ahead without him. Boss, how long are you planning to stand there? Yuntai calling. The High Orc shadow soldier gets his arm chopped off, forcing him to take a knee. The Red Blade tribesmen chant Groktar's name as he explains that an orc's tattoos symbolizes enemies slain. You should have killed quite a few, he says to the High Orc. Groktar roars, demanding more excitement. He swings his blade at the fallen shadow soldier, but another shadow leaps forward and intercepts the strike. The impact makes Groktar's hand shake, yet he still praises the High Orc's strength. But it won't save you, he shouts before cleaving the orc shadow straight down the middle. The creature remains upright and instantly regenerates, leaving the chief baffled. He wonders if some strange magic is at play, since no matter how many times he slices through them, their condition never changes. He thinks about how he could kill them 100 or 1,000 times, kill all humans, yet it would make no difference. Clutching his head, he mutters that the worsening pain means he must hurry and end this. If they're moving because of magic, then all I need to do is eliminate the one controlling them, he decides as his gaze locks onto Gina. You girl, he bellows, ordering his warriors to seize her. He commands his orcs to keep attacking relentlessly, since High Orcs are helpless while regenerating. They swarm the shadows, hacking one apart and stabbing into the next. Gina, it's dangerous, Song Yi shouts. In that instant, the chieftain grabs Gina by the face and lifts her effortlessly, sensing her mana. Just as I suspected. It's you, he growls, squeezing harder. Die! Suddenly he freezes, feeling something massive approaching. A tremor runs through him, and he drops Jin-ah. Something's coming! Something horrifying! Prepare yourselves! He screams to his tribe. A violent crash wipes out several of his men, and he narrowly escapes the blow. Gina coughs as Jin gently pats her head, calming her and assuring her she's safe. Groktar stands paralyzed as the debris clears, revealing Kaisel and Jinwoo surrounded by a crushing aura. The chief attempts to introduce himself, but Jin cuts him off, pointing coldly. Leveling after Jinwoo tells the orc chieftain to wait, he hugs his sister, reassuring her that it's all right and apologizes apologizes for being late. He checks on Song Yi as well. She confirms, but she notes that Jin's mood feels pretty scary. Jinwoo looks down at Gina's bruised face and grows furious. He tells Igris to take care of her and instructs his other soldiers to take the students and head down first. At that moment, an orc twitches anxiously. "I said don't move," Jin warns them. The students ride down Kaisel's body. Groktar realizes the undying soldiers belong to Jin and demands to know who he is and how he can speak their language. The silent, cold-eyed brother doesn't answer. The chief understands Jin has no intention of responding and immediately orders his warriors to attack. 3 orcs charge forward at Jin. The first swings its weapon toward him, but Jin seizes the creature's fingers and crushes them, making the orc scream in agony. Still gripping those fingers, Jin whirls the orc around and slams it into the floor, then crushes the skull with his feet. 2 more orcs strike from both sides. Jin activates Commander's Touch, smashing the orcs' spines together, compresses their bodies until they collapse into each other. The remaining Red Blade warriors howl and charge Jinwoo. He blitzes through the group, ripping pieces from their bodies with nothing but his bare hands. As their corpses fall and he nears the chieftain, another orc stares in disbelief at what it witnessed. Jin grips the warrior's face using Commander's Touch and hammers it into the wall. Jinwoo scans the hallway, seeing the slaughtered students around him. He demands to know why they did it, why orcs harbor such an intense urge to kill humans. With its face crushed, the orc replies that the command echoes endlessly in their minds: kill the humans. Jin asks if it hears that same voice about him, but the creature only pleads desperately for mercy. Jin orders it to answer, yet the orc continues begging, tears spilling from its eyes. "I see," Jin mutters, realizing he isn't considered human in that command either. "Well, it doesn't matter. I'll forgive you, but don't expect it to be painless." After Baru drives his arm straight into the Archlich's chest, the monster collapses and crashes into the ground. Baru pulls the orb from its body and crushes it, turning the creature into mist. In that instant, every undead soul evaporates, their bodies dropping lifeless to the floor. The hunters stare in disbelief, stunned that the Archlich went down in a single strike, and that all the undead have fallen with it. Baru screeches, and Jongsu admits he knew the creature was powerful, but this level of strength is unreal. Yuntai remarks that with summons like these, Jinwoo doesn't even need to step into a dungeon. He could clear everything by sending them in alone. Jongsu adds that controlling so many summons must drain an enormous amount of magical energy, so Jin probably can't deploy all of them at once. But even half the force they witnessed would still surpass the strength of any major guild in South Korea. Yuntai suggests pushing for a merge between their guild and Jinwoo's, but Jongsu corrects him sharply, calling it an alliance. A new guild created by the strongest hunter and one of the nation's 5 major guilds? An alliance like that sounds impressive. Yuntai wonders if they truly intend to go through with it, since Jin clearly doesn't need their help. Jongsu explains that Jin can't bypass guild rules just because of who he is. Yuntai questions this, and the guildmaster clarifies that even if Jin's summons can solo dungeons, he still needs to meet the minimum headcount for a raid team. The swordsman nods, realizing they'll become the support force, while Hunter Sung provides the true manpower, though it might feel like leeching off him. Jongsu assures him that they'll be providing support, not taking advantage. On a sad day in solo leveling, association members close off the area while EMTs get to work, and a woman pushes through the crowd saying she needs to see his son with her own eyes. She breaks down the moment she sees her child's lifeless body. Someone asks if any survivors remain, and the hunter inside confirms there are none. While this chaos unfolds, Chairman Go Gun-hee sits in a car and reports that the 213 students who escaped at the start are all safe, but only 10 more were rescued. Everyone else who failed to escape is gone. He hands his phone to Jinwoo and says this entire accident could have been predicted and prevented. The phone shows a sharp rise in gate activity across Seoul over the last 6 months, along with global numbers showing the same trend. Gates are appearing more often everywhere, yet at the same time more people are getting tested for their awakened ranking, and as more monsters appear, more hunters are rising to match them, like the world is trying to keep a strange balance. Jin feels something is beginning to shift. Jin then asks what the chairman wanted to talk about, and Go Gun-hee gives him official documents from nations trying to contact Hunter Sung Jinwoo. He is certain that some have already reached out unofficially. He says the association has no right to block anyone and can only protect Jin's personal information if he wishes, but he fears South Korea will not be able to keep up with the coming changes if Jin ever chooses to leave. They reach the hospital where Jin's sister is resting. As Jin steps out, the chairman calls to him and says they will provide anything within their power if he agrees to stay in South Korea. He explains that officially there are 10 S-rank hunters, including Jinwoo, but 3 are already gone, with 2 dying in the Jeju raids and 1 leaving for America. The association can no longer afford to stay hands-off. They must do everything they can from now on. Jin then tells him what he wants. Would they let him enter high-ranking gates alone in the future? The chairman stops and asks if he is requesting an exception from the minimum headcount rule. Jinwoo confirms it. Go Gun-hee explains that this rule is the safety net that stops hunters from rushing into dungeons unprepared and dying. Removing it is a serious step. Then he pauses and realizes why Jin created his guild. Jin confirms it and asks if this request is difficult to grant. A one-man strike squad? Go Gun-hee thinks for a moment, then he says it is not impossible and tells Jin to leave it to him. Jin-ho is stunned by the size of the gate, and Jinwoo casually mentions how he would have reacted if he had seen the massive one in Busan. Before he can say more, reporters surround him from every angle, throwing questions non-stop. That's when Woo Jin-chul steps in, and the guildmaster questions how his personal information keeps leaking. Jin-chul explains that while they can protect his details, they can't control the gate's location, and suggests Jin-woo avoid posting info on social media next time. The vice guildmaster then asks if it's really fine to skip hiring retrieval or mining teams, saying he can't possibly handle everything alone. But Jin-woo calmly replies that his shadows can manage it all. Jin-chul scans the summoned army and freezes. Every single shadow is B rank or higher. He notes that Jin-woo easily meets the raid permit requirements, and that anyone complaining about favoritism doesn't know what they're talking about. Once the confirmation is complete, Jin-chul takes off his jacket, revealing polished raid suit. Both guildmasters stare in shock as he explains that the association president ordered him to confirm whether this raid is truly safe. Inside the dungeon, Jin-woo begins the raid, and the chief of surveillance watches in disbelief. A moment later, he grows tense as Jin-woo's shadow knights pierce straight through an A-rank Naga. Tank rips a head off, iron roars forward, and the ants tear through their enemies. A High Orc shadow drives a blade into another Naga. Even veteran mage types and close-range hunters would struggle here, but the shadow army keeps overwhelming the enemy because they constantly regenerate. Jin-chul's focus narrows on one summon in particular. The knight swings his blade and lightning cracks through the air. Only mages with a deep well of mana can wield lightning, yet Igris releases it with every strike. He moves through the Naga swarm, slicing them apart before the blasts erupt behind him. Jin-chul considers ranking him as A-class, and quietly wonders if he could even win in a one-on-one fight. Just then, an ant starts chewing on a Naga's head, and Jin-woo boots the shadow into the ceiling, telling it not to eat that because monster corpses are worth money. He also snaps at his mining team to stay focused as they pull out the magic crystals. Woo Jin-chul finally understands why the chairman wanted him to observe Jin-woo. He's not just clearing an A-rank dungeon, he's retrieving corpses, mining crystals, and handling every role alone through his shadows. The massive slithering Naga boss appears. Jin-woo cancels every summon except the ones working. The supervisor asks why he dismissed the rest when they were strong enough to handle the monster. Jin-woo pulls out his daggers and says that if he keeps relying on his shadows, he will lose his edge. He rushes forward, runs up the monster's body, and cuts straight through the Naga's head. Jin-chul freezes as the A-rank boss drops from a single strike. In that moment, Jin-woo hits level 101. His reward is simple, but huge. Every job skill levels up once. Shadow Exchange gets an hour shaved off its cooldown. Jin-woo thinks about what will happen if he pushes this even further, and how he could protect his family no matter where he is in the world. Jin-chul inspects the corpse and says, Naga scales are so tough they're used for armor and shields, yet Jin-woo killed the creature with 2 daggers. Before he can even process it, Jin-woo stands on the body and says, Arise. The system responds. The Monarch's voice ignites the fighting spirit of the dead, and the shadow rises, already upgraded to level 13. Jin-woo notices its rank is the same as Tusk, and its power is close to the real monster, but the body is smaller than its original. Shadows usually grow or stay the same size, but the magic pouring out of it is huge. He figures it may enlarge itself later. Since it's an elite knight, he gives it a name Jima. Jinho is thrilled that Jin-woo turned a monster this strong into a summon, but the cave begins to collapse, and he quickly alerts the guildmaster that it's time to leave. Outside, reporters wait in shock as Tusk walks through the gate carrying the Naga boss. Cameras flash and Tusk gets flattered and smiles. When the hunters exit, they notice even more reporters waiting. Jin-woo says it's probably because this was his first guild raid. Woo Jin-chul looks exhausted and says that's an understatement. Chairman Go listens to everything and says that no matter how many raids Jin-chul has seen, anyone would be shaken after hearing this. That wasn't a raid, that was a one-sided massacre, Jin-chul says. Chairman Go sends Jin-chul home to rest. Standing by the window, he thinks that calling Jin-woo a one-man raid is not enough. One-man guild fits better. He smiles, knowing his instincts were right from the moment he met him. Meanwhile in Tokyo, the sky twists, the wind roars, and people stare upward as a gate beyond anything they've ever seen begins to form. 3 men talk quietly about how every major guild has gathered. Japan calling all guildmasters at once is no small thing. Their murmurs stop when they spot the new guildmaster of the Short Sword Guild, Sugimoto, walking in with his elite S-rank attack force behind him. Didn't this guild lose 7 S-ranks in the last Jeju Island raid, including Goto Ryuji himself? People say Matsumoto is hanging by a thread now. They joke that the guild's monopoly over S-rank hunters is finally cracking. The Blade Guild is done, that's what they claim. They even say they could rise to the top of Japan if they work hard enough. Sugimoto pauses, looks at them, and the men instantly shut up and walk away. Minoru grumbles that these guys were never this bold when Goto was alive. Kanai explains that the Black Hole Guild and the Snowy Mountains Guild are planning to merge, giving them 4 S-rank hunters, the same number as Blade Guild. Sugimoto laughs at the idea of them becoming the top guild through a simple merger. What power do they even have? Weak remains weak. A man suddenly slams the table. Why is the Hunter Association silent when an S-rank gate just opened in the middle of Tokyo? Matsumoto answers with a heavy truth. S-rank hunters can't clear an S-rank dungeon on their own, not unless they bring in national-level hunters. Another man tells Chong Li to stop asking obvious questions. After seeing the Jeju raid, the outcome should be clear to anyone. Someone asks if there's a plan. What about hiring Thomas Andre? But another guy scoffs. Does Japan even have the money to bring in someone like Thomas? Chong Li wonders wonders who in the world would even want to help clear an S rank right now. That's when Sugimoto cuts in. There is one hunter willing to help if they pay him enough. Jin's excitement grows as he gets closer to level 102. He wonders what surprise awaits him now, because level 100 gave him the key to the Cartnon Temple, and level 101 boosted every job-specific skill he had. As he parks his car, he thinks about Jin Ho and whether he's managing everything alone, because hiring an employee would make the workload way easier. Right then, Jin and Mommy Cha spot each other at the same time. Cha instantly turns around to leave, but Jin almost teleports in front of her, asking why she came to the office if she planned to run away the moment she saw him. Mommy Cha simply points toward her car. That's when the insidious Rizzler realizes she couldn't drive here on her own. Last time they used shadow exchange. She takes a breath and asks if Jin can spare a moment. Her mind is full of questions about the new employee, but she swallows all of it and instead shocks Jin by revealing that Byung-gu asked her to deliver a message. Jin stops her mid-sentence and guides her inside the office. Cha quietly asks if anyone else is in the building. Jin explains the Vice Master stayed behind at the dungeon. The idea of being alone with him makes her tense up, but Jin stays focused. He asks how Byung-gu even managed to leave her a message. Cha remembers the moment she fell into the abyss. In that darkness, she heard a voice. A dark figure grabbed her and told her Jin needs to be careful with his power. He warned her that something dragged him out of eternal darkness, but whatever came back wasn't fully him. It carried his will, his memories, and his loyalty, like a slave created only to serve Jinwoo. But what terrified him wasn't the control. It was the fact that he felt happy about it. He wanted to serve. Byung-gu said Jin's powers are too strong and overwhelming, and that Jin must understand this truth as well, because the real army of Hunter Sung is. Jin is eating a sandwich while replaying Cha's message in his head. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but he doesn't care right now. I need to find the source of my power. That matters more than getting stronger. Jin Ho starts reminiscing about the old days when they used to run C-rank dungeons together, but Jin cuts him off and tells him to finish swallowing before talking. The Vice Master then asks why Jin doesn't just let his shadows work on their own since they can move freely now. Jin keeps it simple. The farther he is, the less experience points he gets. And honestly, there's no telling what those goobers would do without supervision. He also asks about Gina after the school dungeon break. Jin Ho says they told her to rest, and Jin placed his most trustworthy guard right beside her. That's when Jin remembers he unlocked share senses. He can literally see through his shadows now. The TV is playing. Baru is mashing buttons on the remote, mimicking whatever he hears. Jin spots Gina sleeping peacefully, while Baru keeps expanding his vocabulary. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Jin checks other places too. His mom shopping, Choi and Bayek arguing, a shower head, and Cha bathing. Jin jumps out instantly. Jin Ho asks if he just fell asleep. Embarrassed, Jin wonders if he should apologize, or maybe ask Cha to lunch instead. Then Jin Ho mentions an S-rank gate that just appeared in Japan. Less than 3 days until a break. Hunters are being gathered from across the world. Jin Ho asks if anyone contacted him. Jin says no, and honestly, he has bigger problems. He looks at the key in his hand. Only 27 hours left. What are you? Why can't you just tell me already? Meanwhile, over in Japan, Yuri Orlov, the strongest S-rank support hunter alive, introduces himself to the Draw Sword Guild. He says he read the reports, praises the evacuation, but asks if it's true Japan can only deploy 6 S-rank hunters. Sugimoto confirms. They need 1 S-rank stationed at each guild to manage the A-rank gates. Yuri wipes his chin. Pathetic. He slams his drink down. 3.6 billion yearly, 10 million daily. Pay me, and I'll hold that gate as long as you want. Sugimoto shouts at the astronomical price Yuri Orlov demands. 3.6 billion a year to save Japan. Yuri stands confidently, claiming he's asking far less than Thomas Andre would. Will you save your country or lose it to save money? Even if you begged on your knees, it still wouldn't be enough. Minoru glances at Kanai, asking if she understands Russian, and she shakes her head. The tone already feels insulting. Sugimoto presses if Yuri is really that capable. Yuri smirks. Of course he is. More valuable than 100 small fry standing behind him. Suddenly a barrier traps them both, immovable, and Yuri declares they won't move without his permission. Try to escape if you can. Sugimoto studies him, confirming his skills, but questions whether the government will ever approve such a huge budget. He wonders if trusting Yuri is their only choice, and asks to make a quick call. Meanwhile in Korea, Jinwoo laces up, telling his mom he'll be right back. She worries, but he reassures her he has an appointment. 1 minute on the temple key timer, he summons it, revealing the gate's location. At Jinna's school, association agents notice a gate appearing twice in the same spot. They're relieved no students are inside. A hooded figure approaches, stopped by an agent, only for the hood to drop. Hunter Sung Jinwoo. How long has it been open? 3 days. He thought he'd uncovered the gate, not that it was already active. The gate is around C rank. Hunter's already inside for 2 hours. Jinwoo warns them to cancel the raid immediately. There's no time to explain. Inside the dungeon, the raid team is struggling with a massive door that won't open, not even with magic. Just as tension builds, Jin suddenly appears and warns them calmly that this place is a trap. The hunters are skeptical at first, until one of them recognizes him as S-rank hunter Sung Jinwoo. Jinwoo. Jin explains that this dungeon is far more dangerous than they think and tells them he will handle it alone, ordering them to go back. He tries to open the door, but the system informs him that a key is required. Without hesitation, Jin summons the key and unlocks the door, leaving the entire team stunned. Before Jin can enter, one hunter objects, claiming their guild purchased the right to raid the dungeon and Jin has no authority to stop them. Jin doesn't argue. He simply says anyone who wants to enter is free to try. The same hunter steps forward, but the moment he enters, the system declares him an unauthorized intruder. A statue moves instantly and swings its sword. Jin pulls the man back just in time, saving his life by inches. Jin warns them that the room is filled with deadly traps and orders them to leave and report this as a double dungeon. Then he steps inside alone. The door slams shut, torches ignite, and the chamber is revealed, filled with aged, moss-covered statues. This is the place where it all started. The atmosphere feels familiar, yet different. Jin realizes the statues are not living beings or beasts. They are being controlled by something else. Only one source in the room is emitting magical energy. So it really was you. Jin turns toward the winged statue holding the scripture and demands answers. The statue smiles and welcomes him at last. Love arrives in Japan, walking through the airport like he owns the place. Reporters swarm him and ask if he's really planning to block the gate. Yuri answers without hesitation. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. With a confident grin, the barrier specialist explains the plan. He'll draw a massive magic circle around the gate and pour his mana into it. Once it's complete, nothing inside will be able to escape. Some porters question if a single hunter can really contain an S-rank gate alone and ask him to say something to the citizens who doubt him. Yuri admits that if it were just his magic, it would be impossible. But his ability allows the barrier to absorb mana from its surroundings, growing stronger the longer it stays active. He finishes by saying he'll save everyone in Japan, and all they need to do is remember who did it. Over in Korea, Go Gun-hee watches the broadcast with concern. He's not convinced Yuri can hold back an S-rank gate, knowing how catastrophic failure would be. He then asks Woo Jin-chul what Sung Jinwoo has been up to lately. The surveillance chief explains that Sung Jinwoo has been clearing gates non-stop. Since the areas overlap with major guild territories, they've been carefully managing things to avoid conflicts. The chairman finds it ironic that a single hunter is now competing with entire guilds. Jin-chul suddenly receives a call and asks to be excused. The chairman allows it, mentioning he has an appointment anyway. The call reports a second gate appearing in a schoolyard and confirms the discovery of a double dungeon. Meanwhile, inside that double dungeon, the winged statue spreads all 6 of its wings before Jin and crushes the stone tablet in its hand, calmly saying that he's finally arrived. Jin stares at the shattered scripture, questioning whether the statue was really allowed to destroy it like that. The statue explains that the rules written there did have meaning once, but they no longer matter. Jin asks if the statue summoned him, and it confirms it did. When Jin asks if it's a monster, the statue tells him he's asking the wrong question. What matters isn't what the statue is, but what Sung Jinwoo himself is. This will be the final test. As the other statues begin to move, the statue promises that if Jin is still standing when it's over, he'll be told everything. That truth will be his reward. After the winged statue sends its knights forward to fight, Jin tries to summon his shadows, but with a snap, the statue tells him it won't work. The system immediately locks Jin in place. Skills restricted. Escape denied. The test will not end until it says so. Jin understands it instantly. Every hidden card he prepared is now useless, so if this is how it's going to be, he'll rely on his own strength. A knight lunges at him, and Jin notices his inventory still works. He catches the blade with his bare hand, tightens his grip, snaps the tip clean off, and sends it flying straight back through the statue's head. Even then, the puppet keeps moving, so Jin jumps onto its face and drives the broken blade deeper until it finally drops. Another statue swings its axe. Jin summons his daggers mid-air, slices the weapon in half, and crashes both blades straight into its skull. An archer fires from behind. Jin splits the arrow, and Bicycle kicks the fragments back, eliminating the statue. This is the moment he prepared for, the moment he lived for. The winged statue laughs, impressed that a human body made it this far, praising Jin for how much he's grown. And Jin can see everything now, every movement. Every opening. They're powerful, but manageable. The praise doesn't last. The statue warns him it's still too early for the test to end. The ground begins to shake. Jin freezes as the massive seated statue finally stands, towering over everything with a grin spreading across its face as the winged statue speaks once more. It's time to worship God. A contract is slid across the table, one that gives up every essence stone on Jeju Island. Chairman Go pauses, immediately questioning the offer, and Matsumoto answers without hesitation. In exchange, they want Sung Jinwoo. The words are translated, and Gun-hee lets out a quiet laugh, reminding him that Jinwoo isn't even part of the Hunters Association. Matsumoto admits he knows, but they can't reach him at all and only want a chance to negotiate. Chairman Go understands why the price is so high. Giving up that much money only makes sense when the hunter involved is Sung Jinwoo. Then the room shifts. Chairman suddenly speaks Japanese and asks for a private discussion, freezing Matsumoto on the spot. Gun-hee explains calmly that his father once ran a business in Japan, then warns him to stop if this is just another scheme. When Matsumoto plays dumb, Chairman cuts deeper, bringing up the Blade Guild cutting ties with him. Chairman Go points out the obvious. The Blade Guild rejected association funding and accepted only government support. They used to answer directly to the Japanese Hunters Association. With Goto Ryuji, they could gather every S rank instantly. Go makes it clear that if the gate isn't handled properly, Matsumoto will take full responsibility. He places a recorder on the table. Goto may have had his own agenda, but he still represented Japan. The fall of the Blade Guild, the chaos between Japanese guilds, and the sacrifices caused by Matsumoto's plan will all trace back to him. Matsumoto asks about the device. Go tells him it was connected to Goto's receiver. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? This isn't the time to negotiate over mana crystals. If this information goes public, Japan will have to face the consequences of your schemes. Go crushes the recorder and smashes the table in one motion. He says he won't allow one man to drag a nation or all of Asia into collapse. And for that, Matsumoto should thank Sung Jinwoo because worse is still coming. Woo Jin-chul from the monitoring division arrives at the gate with 7 elite hunters. He already knows they won't be any help to Sung Jinwoo. They're only there in case something goes horribly wrong. As they get closer, Jin-chul suddenly stops. A wave of magic washes over him, cold, heavy, suffocating, a storm of power. He asks the others if they feel it too. He immediately asks if any major guilds are preparing for a raid nearby and learns the Hunters Guild is mobilizing, with 2 S-rank hunters involved. Jin-chul orders an emergency cooperation request and quietly wonders just who Sung Jinwoo really is. Inside the dungeon, the architect changes. His wings twist and reshape as Jinwoo looks completely fed up. The 6 extra limbs transform into hands. The architect smiles, then vanishes. In an instant, he's in front of Jinwoo, unleashing a triple punch powerful enough to lift him off the ground and slam him into the wall. Jin crashes hard, coughing blood, barely conscious. There's no pause. The architect attacks again. Jin barely dodges, but the statue predicts the movement and unleashes a brutal barrage, smiling as it connects, until it realizes something's off. Jinwoo is redirecting the blows, not blocking them. Their eyes meet, and the architect praises him. He then lands a clean hit to Jin's face, but Jin slides along the stone arm and drives his fist straight between the statue's eyes, sending the architect skidding backward. The being laughs, fascinated, admitting he never expected a human to be a worthy opponent. Interesting, he says, grinning. Jin stares back through blurred vision, realizing the architect summoned him the moment he hit level 100 because it believed it could win at that level. Jin demands answers. Why the system exists, why he was chosen, and what's happening to the world. The architect rushes him, asking if he really wants answers. Assuming Jin thinks killing the two-faced monster will stop them, Jin retreats, realizing close combat won't work, and activates Commander's authority. The architect calls it pointless, and activates the same power, forming a crushing barrier between them. Even ranged attacks are useless. The architect speaks calmly. It doesn't matter whether you kill me or not. The answers were decided long ago. From the moment the system was designed, this battle was inevitable, and that's when Jin understands. This fight was never meant to be fair. The architect tells Jinwoo that whether he lives or dies, the answers will be revealed. Jin asks how it was able to plan everything and grant him this kind of power. The architect explains it never chose Jinwoo. It only designed the player leveling system. The plan was perfect from the start. Jin realizes his time is almost gone, and there's no option left except a direct attack. The architect leaps into the air, inviting Jin to fight until his final second runs out. It crashes down, but Jin dodges. Attacks pour in from every direction, and in that moment, Jin feels it. His senses sharpen. Everything becomes clear. He reads every weapon, every movement. Jin slips past the club and slices into the architect's leg. He dodges again, cuts its cheek, and the monster freezes in disbelief. A human is avoiding its attacks with his own power. Jin doesn't stop. He overwhelms the rock monster and severs its arm. The architect is shaken. Even in a false body, a mere human is forcing it to struggle. That's why Jin was chosen. The architect screams in rage, furious that a human dares stand before him. As the clock ticks down, it reactivates its puppets one by one. Jin dashes forward, leaps into the air, and activates Ruler's authority. He slams into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that blasts the statue's back. He sprints through the chaos, dodging the god statue's punches as the fight reaches its peak. 2 more arms fall, then a sword slash knocks him back. A shield knight strikes from behind. Jin turns, recognizing it from his first trial. Anger flashes. He jumps, drives his elbow down, and splits its head in half. In the same motion, he turns back and chops off the architect's remaining arms. The battlefield falls silent as the dust settles. 2 minutes and 11 seconds remain. The architect admits defeat. The architect points at him and says the test was never external. It was inside him. A system window appears asking whether he will accept, and the architect explains that everything stored in Jinwoo's memories can now be accessed, giving him a choice that will decide what comes next. After a brief moment of thought, Jinwoo accepts, and a blinding light immediately swallows everything. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself floating high above an unfamiliar world, looking down at an enormous army of monsters gathered below. The scene is confusing at first, until the monsters suddenly look toward the sky, forcing Jinwoo to do the same. Massive gates cover the heavens, and in that moment he realizes he is no longer on Earth. The monsters below resemble the same creatures humanity fights inside gates, and Jinwoo understands that if all of them ever emerged at once, humanity would have no chance of surviving. However, these monsters are not facing humans. As the gates shatter open, Jinwoo realizes they are fighting angels, and what unfolds is a full-scale war. The monsters combine their strength to resist the Silver Soldiers, and the battlefield is instantly filled with deafening clashes. Cries of victory quickly turn into screams as blood stains the ground, and despite the monsters' efforts, the Silver Soldiers prove overwhelmingly powerful, pushing them toward total annihilation. Just as defeat seems unavoidable, the Silver Soldiers suddenly begin to stop. A horse steps forward carrying a knight whose presence changes everything. Jinwoo immediately feels it, the territory of a monarch and the power of shadow extraction, leaving no doubt that the being before him is the Shadow Monarch. The monsters' sacrifices do not end in death, as their blood darkens and reshapes into power, creating an army of shadows on a scale Jinwoo cannot even compare himself to. Creatures rise from the brink of death and charge once more, as black shadows collide with silver armor across the battlefield. What was meant to be a one-sided massacre transforms into a true war. The Shadow Monarch tears through the Silver Soldiers and surges forward, using ruler's authority to crush angels with invisible force, a sight that shocks Jinwoo as he realizes the Monarch wields the same telekinetic power he does. The Shadow Army continues its endless cycle of destruction and revival, steadily overwhelming the enemy, and wherever the Shadow Monarch moves, nothing survives in his wake. Jinwoo witnesses what appears to be the complete victory of the monsters and the Shadow Army, until the world around him suddenly collapses. The monitoring division arrives at the double dungeon alongside several top members of the Hunters Guild, and the moment they step closer, they're overwhelmed by the sheer amount of magical power pouring out of it. Cha Hai-in immediately notices something is wrong, realizing that the energy radiating from the dungeon doesn't belong to Jinwoo. Woo Jin-chul recalls Jinwoo once saying he wasn't the one who truly cleared the double dungeon before, making him question why Jinwoo would return here at all. When the hunters open the massive door, they're stunned by the sight inside. The statues are still there exactly as they were, and Jin-chul can't hide his disbelief that they had been waiting all this time. That's when a voice echoes through the chamber as the architect speaks, calmly questioning why humans are here, and remarking that he doesn't remember inviting them, dismissing their presence as another external disturbance. The hunters freeze in shock, realizing a monster is speaking fluent human language. The architect quickly silences them, warning that they will interrupt the king's slumber, and when he refers to Sung Jinwoo, the guild members are left confused about what he truly means. Before they can even react, the architect calls them strong humans and declares they will make suitable offerings for the king. In the Monsterland, demon clans march beneath their banners toward the Shadow Monarch, joined by massive beasts and lesser demons as an entire demon army prepares to face him. But that clash is set aside as the focus snaps back to the dungeon. Inside, healers rush to tend the wounded while Choi Jong-in orders everyone to gather their strength and move the injured to the rear. The knights advance, and the false god begins to rise as the architect announces that the hunters will be allowed to witness the king's rebirth, but only if they can destroy his puppets and survive long enough. A warning is shouted just as the false god unleashes its deadly beams, forcing the hunters to scatter, while one of the strongest among them dodges and fires back, striking the statue directly and commanding the others to focus on the knights while he is distracted. Jin-chul charges in and lands a fully powered punch on one of the statues, only to realize it does absolutely nothing, forcing him to retreat as Choi blinds the enemy with flames and warns everyone that the statues possess abnormal physical resistance. As the smoke clears, even magical resistance comes into question, and their attacks continue to fail. Ki-hoon reports that his taunting has no effect, and Cha confirms her psychokinesis isn't working either, pushing Choi into a moment of panic before he realizes there's only one option left. They have to wake Jinwoo. With no other choice, Choi launches a fireball toward Jinwoo, hoping the impact will snap him awake, but before it can land, the architect intercepts it and immediately counterattacks. Members of the surveillance team jump in, barely managing to push the architect back, giving them a brief opening. Jin-chul shouts for Cha to handle Jinwoo while they hold the line, and as she rushes toward him, the fate of everyone inside the double dungeon hangs on whether the Shadow Monarch will awaken in time. As the hunters struggle to survive inside the double dungeon, Sung Jinwoo spectates an entirely different battlefield where reborn shadow monsters are fighting the demon clan. Even at his current level, Jinwoo can tell that the magic flooding this place would have killed him, with shadow soldiers being torn apart and regenerating endlessly. The demon clan and the beasts pouring out of the two gates slaughter the shadows without hesitation, and that's when Jinwoo realizes something is wrong. If this were a war between monsters and shadows, there would be no reason for them to fight like this. The Shadow Army was never on the monster side, meaning this isn't an external war but an internal one. As As demon corpses pile up across the battlefield, the Shadow Monarch approaches a weakened demon leader and states that the fighting could have ended today, demanding to know why he was betrayed. The demon laughs and claims it was a waste, saying he could have killed the monarch. When asked again, the demon only repeats a single word over and over, Wingdings, laughing as he does. The Shadow Monarch lifts him by the throat and crushes it without hesitation, but the moment the demon dies, something feels off. The monarch freezes, staring at the demon's eyes, realizing he's seen them before. He looks down at his own hands, at his armor, and the truth hits. The Shadow Monarch is Sung Jinwoo. His chest armor crumbles as he touches his heart, revealing a second glowing purple core beating inside him, a second heart. Before he can process it, Jinwoo senses a presence behind him and turns to see the silver soldiers watching from the air. With that, the recalled data ends, and we return to the double dungeon. The architect finally admits humans are entertaining until they're dead. He taunts Cha-Hyen, daring her to break out of the path he designed for her. She answers with her sword dance, moving with the kind of speed and precision that makes even the architect smile. The clash of their blades turns into a brutal duel, and for a moment it looks like she might actually push past his plan. But he counters with a devastating strike, a deep flash that shatters her shoulder and leaves it useless. He sneers, calling humans predictable. In the end, he says, everyone follows the design. The statue backs him up, but he counters with a devastating strike, can predict and deep flash that shatters her shoulder and leaves it useless, hitting the architect in the face with magic. Calling humans that their only chance is to wake Sung Jinwoo. In the end, he says, she seizes the moment everyone follows the design, but the architect intercepts instantly. The architect jumps back, explaining that the architect system can predict and respond to any outcome linked to her. The fact that the king assigned a soldier to her don't even make him uneasy. He demands to know how they found the place and what is their connection. Hitting the architect in the face with magic. They're Jin's friends. He shouts that they're here to save him. The architect questions the king's plan, but he's curious enough to give her a chance. He announces that today, one of the great monarchs will descend into this world. He'll let her see it happen. But everyone else? They die where they stand. And then a voice cuts in. According to whom? Suddenly Jinwoo appears. He shatters the architect's jaw in one hit, then demands to know what the architect did to his body. Jinwoo doesn't just knock him down. He reads the architect's body like it's nothing, and sends him crashing to the ground. The architect snarls, calling Jinwoo not the king, and still tries to keep his arrogance, even after getting wrecked. He wonders how Jinwoo could stand there like that, like he belongs there, like he's the one in charge. Jinwoo feels the magic in the air and realizes something. That power, it's coming from the Black Heart. The system confirms it. The power recognizes him for remembering how to defeat the Demon King. Jinwoo gets the effect Black Heart, and the system rewards him with 100,000 mana. And just like that, the architect's design is already slipping. The rules are breaking. The story is changing. After Jinwoo's punch sends the architect crashing into the ground, he immediately notices the panic in the statue's reaction and realizes the architect never intended for him to unlock the Black Heart's power or become this strong. Jinwoo demands to know why the architect opposed him being chosen as a player, what a player actually is, and what the architect's true intentions were since the data recall didn't provide all the answers he needed. The architect only responds in disbelief, screaming that Jinwoo is the Shadow Monarch and warning him that the other monarchs will not sit quietly. Ignoring the architect's ramblings, Jinwoo summons his daggers and tells the statue to simply answer the questions he asked. The architect states that the situation wasn't supposed to turn out this way and claims he finally understands why Jinwoo was chosen, while the other hunters nearby grow weary as the previously still statues begin to move. The architect warns that if he dies, no one will be able to stop his puppets, but Jinwoo counters by asking what would happen if he simply killed the architect and then killed the puppets afterward. When the architect suggests that killing the creator of the system would mean Jinwoo returns to being an E-rank hunter, Jinwoo explains that he has already thought about that and believes the system won't fall apart even if its creator disappears. The architect tries to scream that he will destroy everything, but he is shocked to find that the system is actually blocking his own access to the controls. Jinwoo explains that he previously planned to devour the system and use it for himself, noting that the architect's design clearly had flaws. As Jinwoo carves up the statue, the architect mentions a prophecy about an inevitable death waiting for him when the pillars of fire are built, to which Jinwoo calmly agrees. The Bravery Guild waits outside the gate, growing more uneasy with every passing moment. The Hunters Guild finally emerges, and the mood shifts instantly. These are elite hunters, yet they look shattered, exhausted, and bloodied. They are carrying bodies that should never have fallen inside a single S-rank raid. The Bravery Guild stands frozen, trying to understand what could have happened inside a C-rank gate to hunters who were supposed to be untouchable. Jinwoo's thoughts drift back to the architect, the system, the unanswered questions, the reason he was chosen, and why every truth keeps stopping just short of clarity. Jin Chul admits that if this had turned into a dungeon break, the damage would have been irreversible. Over 20 top-level hunters are dead. He questions why Jinwoo tried to stop it alone. Jinwoo answers without pride. He survived only because of the Hunters Guild and the Monitoring Division. The Chief of Surveillance presses Jinwoo about how he found the double dungeon. Jinwoo answers calmly. The dungeon summoned him there. He explains the message only visible inside his head. There is no hesitation in his voice. The Chief asks if he is all right. Cha asks the same. Jinwoo says says he is fine. Then his body gives out. He collapses on the spot, because even a monarch still bleeds, and even overwhelming power has limits. A massive fleet of trucks begins dumping loads of magic crystals across the streets of Tokyo to provide the fuel necessary for the barrier. Yuri Orlov watches the process and notes that 200,000 tons of mana crystals should be more than enough to power the magic circle he intends to use. He explains to the nearby agents that he will first cast a magic barrier circle around the rank S gate and then supplement it with the power from these crystals until the circle can eventually begin gathering its own magical energy. Despite his preparations, Yuri senses something unusual and clarifies to a questioning agent that while the circle is fine, he feels a presence lingering nearby. He shouts out into the emptiness to demand who is there, while an agent doubts anyone would be brave enough to stay on the streets with a dungeon break imminent. Yuri clarifies that he never specifically said it was a person on a rooftop, and it is revealed that Sung Il-hwan is watching from a distance. The man who once fought the Frost Monarch compliments Yuri's sharp senses and remarks that everything is finally beginning to flow according to a predetermined tragedy. Nearby, the Japanese military sits ready with their war machines, though the hunters present are skeptical of their utility. Kanai asks what the point of the military is when their weapons have no significant effect on monsters, leading Sugimoto to explain that if Yuri Orlov fails, the soldiers are there to provide stall time for the first line of hunters. They acknowledge that in this scenario, they are essentially cannon fodder, who will soon witness just how powerless humans truly are in the face of such a disaster. As Yuri approaches the gate, he tells the agents that if all goes well, he could potentially handle this rank S gate entirely on his own. He expresses a desire to be known as the man who cleared such a gate solo, though he is reminded that there is already another hunter more suitable for that title. Before the chaos begins, Yuri pops a bottle of alcohol to toast and take the edge off, dismissing an agent's concerns by promising to put on the best show they have ever seen. He asks how many S-rank hunters are on standby and expresses disappointment that there are only 15 present to witness his work. When he questions why the United States didn't send backup, the agent informs him that another S-rank gate has appeared in Maryland, with 2 more opening in England and India. Yuri reflects on how the world is suffering from a lack of qualified people, just as the massive red gate begins to crack open, signaling the start of the crisis while Sung Jinwoo remains recovering in a hospital bed, and realizes he has been unconscious for 3 full days. His immediate concern shifts toward the catastrophic S-rank gate that appeared in Japan. While he tries to process the mental fatigue and the lingering images of war in his mind, Jinho reveals the grim reality of what transpired during those 72 hours. The situation in Tokyo had spiraled out of control almost immediately, as the Japanese army and local hunters watched in horror while multiple giants began emerging from the gate. These creatures are typically found as final bosses in high-level A-rank dungeons, yet here they were appearing as common foot soldiers. The Russian hunter remained incredibly arrogant, relying entirely on the massive force field he had constructed by draining energy from an array of mana crystals. He laughed at the initial attacks, questioning how monsters found in a mere A-rank gate could ever hope to breach his specialized wizardry. This confidence was short-lived, as a massive hand reached out from the gate to push a smaller giant aside, revealing a titan of much greater scale. Before Yuri could even process his mistake, the massive entity unsheathed its sword and sliced the entire barrier clean in half, leaving the city completely defenseless. This single strike marked the beginning of the crisis in Japan. Jinho's father wakes up from a deep nap with a groan and asks how long he has been asleep, and the attendant answers that it has been 23 hours and 40 minutes, adding that they were ready to take him to the hospital after 24 hours just as he ordered, before informing him that there are 2 important matters to report. The first being that a patient has awakened from eternal slumber, and that patient is Jinwoo's mother. The chairman pauses and questions whether Jinwoo truly has the ability to cure an illness the world failed to solve, then asks about the second matter, and in response, the attendant opens the door and presents a young woman, allowing their conversation to begin as the scene abruptly shifts away. In Japan, Yuri Orlov screams as he falls straight into a giant's mouth and is swallowed in a single horrifying gulp, which triggers immediate chaos as tanks fire from the ground and helicopters unload artillery from above, shaking the battlefield while Sugimoto stands below and orders his team to attack. Kanei attempts to blind the giant, believing it will not be able to track them without its sight, but in a flash, the giant retaliates by swinging its blade with impossible speed, forcing the S-rank hunters to dodge as Kanai freezes in disbelief at how such a massive creature could move so fast. A helicopter circles above the destruction, while the broadcast continues from a burning Tokyo. Jinwoo watches the destruction in Japan on TV, the scenes flashing like a memory of Jeju, and he feels the urge to rush in and help, but a familiar voice stops him. He turns to see his little sister standing there, telling him not to go again, her expression heavy with unspoken worry. He asks what she means, and she looks down in silence, but Jinwoo shakes his head and tells her he's not going anywhere. He's been working too hard and needs a break. Later, sitting alone in a quiet park, Jinwoo summons Baru. The Shadow Monarch greets him with his usual formality, slipping from Your Majesty to Lord as he mounts the ant, scolding him lightly for watching dramas instead of keeping watch over Gina. He asks about his little sister, and Baru reports nothing unusual, though Jinwoo can't shake the feeling that she carries a subtle unease, remembering how she's never tried to stop him from leaving since that first raid 4 years ago. Walking down the sidewalk, Jinwoo's thoughts swirl around what he should do next, the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Just then, a vehicle pulls up beside him, and the arc continues, tension mounting as the next event begins to unfold. A helicopter moves through the smoke above a burning city. The reporters inside stare down in silence as giants tear through buildings and trees like the world is made of paper. And the worst part, it is the way the giants pick humans up and eat them without hesitation. He asks what happens to them if one of those things looks up. His friend tells him they will be fine as long as they keep their distance. That is what the research team said. The largest giant is still standing near the gate. The others spread out across the city. The reporter says it looks like the big one is guarding the entrance. Or maybe it is waiting for something to come through. The cameraman says the giant does not feel alive. It breathes, it moves, but it feels empty, like a machine following a program. The reporter shuts that down. If it was just a machine, the military cannons would have destroyed it already. 30 giants appeared. 2 are dead after 2 full days. That is the reality. And if this keeps going, the damage will not stop at one city. At the Ajin Guild office, Jin-ho watches the same broadcast. His face is pale. He asks Jinwoo if he is seriously thinking about going to Japan. The guild master talks about opportunity. If they succeed, the Ajin name will spread worldwide. Then Jin-ho suddenly declares he is going too. He says it loudly and points at the news articles about recent large gates and says Jin-ho's name is never mentioned. He is the one standing next to him every time. That is the only thing he can claim. Being by Jinwoo's side is his pride. Jin-ho says he wants to go wherever Jin goes. If Jinwoo survives, then he will survive too. Jinwoo smirks and walks toward the door. He tells him he was joking about Japan, tells him to go home because he looks like a sulking kid. On the walk back home, the noise of the city feels distant. Jinwoo thinks about his limits. He still cannot fully rely on the shadow soldiers. The architect was around his level. That means there are enemies stronger than him out there. Japan is not just another raid, it is a battlefield that could expose every weakness he has. He greets his mother when he gets home. The warmth of the house feels fragile compared to the chaos on the screen earlier. He considers dropping the idea entirely, but gates keep opening, and standing still is also a choice. He has to decide which kind of man he is going to be before the world decides for him. In solo leveling, Jin sits down with his mother for some incredible food, all while thinking about the decisions in front of him. "I'm sorry," Jin says, sliding the check back across the table. "I don't think there's anything I can help you with." Chairman Yu asks in confusion how Jin's mother recovered, and Jin replies that if he truly knew, he wouldn't have kept it a secret. Jin then tells the him he has to leave. In the elevator, Jinwoo thinks he should have been honest with Jin-ho's father, but he still doesn't really know him or what kind of man he is. On top of that, the holy water of life is limited, so he has to use it carefully. Despite the tempting offers, none of them swayed his heart, and Jin decides that if he's going to make a choice, it has to be now. While eating, Jin tells his mom that he is going, knowing that with so many others stronger than him, he needs to remain on the battlefield. His mother mentions how his father used to rush through meals whenever someone called for him, and she offers to help Jin pack. After dinner, while Gina lies in bed, Jin quietly steps into her room, saying they need to talk. He sits on the edge of the bed, wondering where to even begin, before admitting that he almost died recently. Well, he almost dies all the time, but this time it was actually going to happen. But he made it out, and he's grateful for every time he's been able to come back. "So this time I'll come back too," he says. He then thanks his little sister for stopping him from going earlier. She says he would have left anyway, and he agrees, promising to protect her no matter the distance. He and Chairman Gu speak confidently at a press conference and shake hands. Later at the airport, Jin-ho walks around carrying expensive gear, while Jin stands there looking sharp as ever. The Ajin Guild heads to Japan. Doctors are devastated upon hearing that the army trucks only have room for 4 people, while they have more than 10 patients who can't move. A soldier explains that they can't afford to focus on those who might die at any second, because the giants are closing in. However, the doctors refuse to abandon them, insisting they will protect their patients. "Then I will stay too," the soldier declares, saying he can't run away while civilians are still there. At that moment, 2 giants loom over the group. The army starts firing as one of the giants reaches down to seize them. The soldier shields an elderly couple, but just before the giant can grab them, a trident pierces the giant, hurling it backward. The soldier is left stunned as a massive shadow monster stands in front of them, and he questions what he is seeing. That's when Jinwoo appears, warning the soldier that it's far too dangerous and they must evacuate immediately. Suddenly, chunks of debris crash down from the roof, but Jin-ho arrives right in time to protect the elderly couple. He tells Jin that he will remain behind while they assist with the evacuation. "All right," the dripster replies. Jima lets out a roar as he drives his trident into the other giant's chest, smashing it into the surrounding buildings. Jin sprints along the serpent's back, launches himself into the air, and slices across the monster's face, cutting it clean in half. In solo leveling, a man asks if Sung Jinwoo went to Japan. His friend replies that he heard Lady Selner hasn't released even a fraction of his power. He's going to die, Baldy comments. Sharkboy says that all of their abilities were enhanced by Lady Selner, and he should understand better than anyone that ordinary hunters have limits. He then asks if he's a reawakened, and Scarface responds that he's clearly getting drunk on his own strength, questioning whether he truly believes his bugs can match giants, adding that hunters who overestimate themselves always end up dead. I'll bet my yacht he dies in a day. I'll bet my house he dies in 2 days. All right then. Are you certain about that? Thomas Andre cuts in. He then wagers the Scavenger Guild's headquarters that Jin will survive. He adds that they should concentrate on the S-tier gate that appeared on their side since the dungeon break is tomorrow, wondering how many of them will still be alive by then. Thomas says it might have been more entertaining to join the action in Japan instead of staying in the United States, but he's confident things will become exciting here tomorrow regardless. Back in Japan, reporters watch in shock as they announce that Jin's summons are overwhelming the giants. The massive giants are being eaten alive by insects, he says. At the same time, a girl runs desperately when a shadow flashes past, severing the giant's hand. The girl stumbles away as the giant howls in agony. Iron then drops from the sky, roaring before crushing the monster's head and slamming it into the ground. Igris and the girl turn to see the fearsome Iron standing triumphantly on top of the giant's corpse. He grins, while Igris, unimpressed, gently pats the child on the head. Looks like Iron is thrilled about his promotion, Jin says while acknowledging Iron's solid performance. A soldier expresses his gratitude, then awkwardly points his thumb at Jin, returning the thanks and leaving him startled. The Guildmaster then instructs Jin Ho to escort the man and finish the evacuation, and he agrees. The Vice Guildmaster guides the man away, and Jin thinks, now then, it's time to get serious. Arise. Reports come in as multiple cities are freed across Japan. Stunned, Matsumoto questions how this could be happening, realizing that Goto may have been right from the moment he saw Jin's eyes at the airport. Out of all the hunters he has encountered, Jin was overwhelmingly powerful. Matsumoto introduces himself and immediately gets to the point, informing Jin that the giants are advancing toward Osaka and that he should focus on protecting that city first. Matsumoto believes that regardless of Jin's strength, defeating every giant alone is impossible, so they plan to negotiate with other nations while he stalls them. I refuse, Jin responds, leaving the Japanese officials speechless. Matsumoto asks what he intends to do. Despite his doubts, Matsumoto comes to understand that Jin plans to handle all the giants on his own. Jin thinks while staring at the giants, considering what to name them. He decides on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with the one Baru just defeated being number 6. The Shadow Monarch tells Jin Ho to prepare without him, since he will use Shadow Exchange to move around and create more soldiers. Jin understands that it has felt easy up to now, but this is likely only the beginning. He decides on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the hunters in eliminating the giants, with Jin's vast mana reserves. The Shadow Monarch tells Jin Ho to prepare without him. The drained giants stand no chance to move around and create more soldiers. However, additional dungeon breaks have erupted throughout Japan up to now, due to the S-rank this is likely only the beginning. As a result, lower-tier monsters are spreading across cities alongside the giants and eliminating evacuation and suppression efforts to occur simultaneously. On the 7th night of the dungeon break, Jinwoo and his Vice Guildmaster walk through the devastated streets, noting the complete destruction around them. Their attention shifts when Hanakawa appears, asking about any other hunters nearby. She informs Jin that she is the only one left in Tokyo. She continues, explaining that they do not even have an accurate count of the total casualties, and that the giants have scattered across the entire country. It is revealed that 16 S-rank hunters were deployed throughout Japan. 6 Japanese, 2 Chinese, 3 Canadian, 2 Indian, 1 Russian, and 1 from the UK. 6 teams altogether. Among the fallen were Uri Orlov from Russia, Hanzawa Kuki of the Black Hole Guild, and Canada's Lucas Hoyle. Because most giants travel in groups, the situation proved more challenging than facing an A-rank gate boss. Jin assumes that many A-ranks perished as well, since even 3 S-rank hunters have fallen. In total, 31 giants appeared, one of which is heading across the sea toward China. They severely lacked the forces needed to protect all of Japan. But because of Jinwoo, the majority of the giants have been eliminated. The rest are being handled by the Shadow Army and the surviving hunters. Alright then, Jin figures that only one task remains for him. Jinwoo reflects on how the scenery feels strangely familiar. Even though nothing is on fire, the devastated city reminds him of the Demon Castle. He considers that the Demon Castle might have been a clue from the system and questions what the architect was trying to convey. The architect is already gone, and since there has been no sign of him since that time, that might have been his true body. Even if the Demon Castle was a warning about what's to come, Jin only needs to prevent it from becoming reality, saying that everyone is present and it's time to start. Hanakawa points out that there are no other hunters in sight, but Jin firmly repeats that everyone is already here. Nearby, Kanai shows her frustration as she takes a seat. Minoru tells her that while it may be irritating, everything has been handled, so it's ultimately a positive outcome. Though she agrees, Kanai remains unhappy, thinking about how no one seems concerned about the giants they struggled so hard against. Now they're heading to Tokyo, leaving the giants barely alive, almost as if they expect them to clean up the aftermath. She mutters, calling the summons bothersome. Shadow soldiers stand prepared throughout the city. Hanakawa scans the area, noticing the higher-ranked summons positioned in the back and numerous lower lower-ranked ones forming a perimeter around them. Jin's generals bow as Baru drops from the sky, slamming into the ground behind Jinwoo. Greeting the ant, Jin commends everyone for their efforts before telling Jinho to escort Hanakawa and stay at a safe distance. Commanding his enemies to reveal themselves, a row of giants emerges before him. Jin lifts his arm, summons his army, and gives the order to attack. Baru lets out a piercing screech as the shadow army rushes forward, pouring into the city like a tidal wave. The forces storm toward the enormous giant, but as they close in, a sharp glint flashes in the creature's eyes, putting the shadow monarch on edge. In an instant, the giant disappears, tearing through the army and cleaving their formation in half with a single swing. Jin is stunned by the giant's overwhelming strength as the blow wipes out more than 100 of his soldiers. The giant is colossal. The aura it radiates is intense enough to make Jin feel the urge to retreat immediately. He wonders how a monster like this could even exist, especially when it's capable of unsettling him. He knows there are only two ways to deal with that feeling: run from the source and ignore it, or eliminate it completely. When a shadow giant tries to launch a sneak attack, the massive creature casually blocks Tusk's fireball with its palm and slices both summons apart in one smooth motion. Ants crawl over and bite at its huge foot, but the giant shakes them off with a brutal kick. Baru prepares to move in, yet Jin raises his hand and signals his generals to hold back. This level of resistance was expected. Jin understands he still has mana to burn, so he pushes the assault to uncover the monster's weakness. Jima and another shadow giant charge in, only to be destroyed as well. Jin realizes the creature barely bothers to defend because its mana wraps around its body like armor. Still, there was a moment when an attack slipped through. Summoning Kaisel, Jin leads his generals into a coordinated strike. Baru dashes at the giant, but the beast sidesteps, causing Baru to rebound off its mana barrier. Kaisel swoops down as Igris gathers power into his blade and unleashes a lightning-charged slash. The giant evades again and counters with a powerful swing, cutting down the wyvern climbing along its arm. The monster is caught off guard when Igris strikes once more. It raises its hand to block, but the blinding flash from the lightning creates an opening. Jin darts in and damages its right eye, confirming his suspicion. Baru immediately follows up, raking his claws across the giant's face. At the same time, Jin uses Ruler's authority to summon all his daggers, diving into close combat with the towering beast. As the giant thrashes wildly, Hanakawa realizes this has stopped being a fight between a hunter and a monster. It has become a clash between two monsters. Jin-ho watches with pride as Jin relentlessly tears into the giant's face, eventually activating Mutilate to shred its eyeball. Blood sprays as the giant screams in pain. Jin calls for Baru, who plunges into the creature's ruined eye socket and repeatedly uses Mutilate from within. Jin keeps slicing from the outside, while Baru rips into the beast internally. With its face mangled and blood pouring from its mouth, the giant finally collapses to its knees. He receives a notification that the enemy has been defeated, and he levels up several times. Standing on top of a building, Jin notices that the system message only says, "You have defeated the enemy." The message, "You have killed the owner of the dungeon," never appeared, meaning the raid still isn't finished. As expected, no black smoke rises from the corpse, so Jin cannot extract the shadow either. Suddenly, something draws his attention. Jin immediately summons a dagger while signaling Jin-ho to stop. "My king," a voice says from the giant's mouth. From its eye, Baru reveals himself. Jin realizes that it's just Baru, and notes that the magical energy is so overwhelming that it can hide Baru's presence, even though the giant is already dead. All of a sudden, the gate violently bursts, startling Jinwoo. Feeling the intense surge of magical energy, he quickly wonders if Jinho is safe. Relieved, he shifts his focus back and notices that the gate is absorbing the giant's magical energy as a crack begins to appear. Jin is surprised, since magical energy has never been strong enough to tear open space like that. After telling Jinho to stay where he is while he checks what's happening inside the gate, Jin moves forward. Jumping into the gate, Jin finds himself inside a massive hall, which makes sense since giants would need a space this large to pass through. Baru asks if his master can hear that strange sound, and Jin confirms that he can. Hearing the eerie laughter echoing through the hall, Jinwoo sarcastically wonders if it's really that funny to have enemies invade your gate and keeps moving forward. Hilarious. Hilarious. You wretched rulers. Look who has discovered me first. Welcome, Monarch. The giant reveals that he is a monarch too. He further explains that both the monarchs and the rulers are likely targeting Jinwoo. In his current state, Jin lacks the power to confront them all and will eventually need allies. The creature urges Jin to free him from the seal, promising that he will offer his assistance in return. Jin questions whether he is seriously supposed to trust that a monster would help a human. Saying that he will make Jin believe him, the monarch begins chanting a mantra, which immediately puts Jin on alert. Jin starts summoning his dagger. Suddenly, the system informs Jin that the King of Giants, Regia, has activated the skill pledge of honesty. This ability guarantees that neither the person who activates it nor the one who accepts it can lie once it takes effect. After thinking about it for a moment, Jin decides to accept, which removes their ability to lie to one another until the contract ends. Regia once again asks Jin to release him from the seal, assuring him that he will help. Jin sarcastically sarcastically replies, "Right, I completely believe you." Jin becomes confused and starts drawing blanks as the monarch explains that this is the effect of Pledge of Honesty, a curse that prevents either of them from lying. Realizing this, Jin wonders how the King of Giants can communicate so clearly with him, unlike the other monsters he has encountered. Clarifying his question, Jin refers to the monsters that come out of the gates. The King of Giants reveals that those creatures are the denizens of the Chaos World. He then asks Jin a question of his own, wondering how Jin could possibly place the mere denizens of the Chaos World on the same level as the monarchs who rule over them. The denizens of the Chaos World that emerge from the gates are actually remnants of defeated armies, those who were captured after losing to the armies of the rulers. They have been restrained for such a long time that their egos and minds have gradually deteriorated. However, unlike them, a monarch is a king and has preserved his sanity, patiently waiting for the distant day when he could finally escape from his confinement. Jin then asks if the armies of the rulers he mentioned are the soldiers dressed in silver armor with wings on their backs. Regia confirms that those are indeed the soldiers of the rulers. Jin then asks why they keep sending those monsters, those creatures, toward them. Regia smiles. Regia explains that they are preparing for a war and intend to transform this world into a battlefield so they can fight the monarchs once again. Not understanding, Jin wonders how sending the monsters to Earth turns it into a battlefield. It's simple, Regia says. It's all to inject magical energy here. If monsters were calamity spawned from the gate, magical energy was a blessing from the gate. Not only did hunters think this, but so did most civilians. Magic crystals and magic stones. These objects imbued with magical energy were the greatest sources of energy in the world, but they were all footholds for the war. Regia explains that there is no better way to propagate non-existent power than using the blood of those who already possess power. So the rulers decided to use their captives. The density of magic energy grows by the day. The rulers' plan is to create a world strong enough to endure the effects of war. And by war, Jin means another battle between the monarchs and the rulers. Soon enough, Jin's world will become a living hell. Telling Jin that there is no time left, Regia says that once it becomes known that they have made contact, both the monarchs and the rulers will intervene. It's even possible that the rulers have already begun to move since they have been targeting him from the start. Jin asks why, and the monarch replies that he truly knows nothing. He explains that the power Jin possesses isn't actually his. The fact that he holds it proves that the original owner has betrayed the monarchs, which means Jin has become an enemy to both the monarchs and the rulers. Swearing that he will fight by Jin's side, Regia asks if he will help free him. However, Jin says that if the monarch is going to fight on his side, it would be better to simply turn him into a shadow soldier. Suddenly, Regia becomes alarmed, as for a moment Jin looked like someone else. He tells the shadow monarch that both monarchs and rulers possess spiritual bodies. When spiritual bodies are destroyed, they completely disappear, meaning they cannot be turned into shadows. Therefore, he cannot become Jin's soldier. He asks once again to be released. Jin, now understanding, begins to feel uneasy, sensing that something is wrong. Jin slowly walks closer with his dagger. As Regia demands to be unchained, Jin asks again if he is truly on his side. Regia answers that of course he is. If Jin helps him, he will help Jin as well. It's a fair and absolute deal between two monarchs. He looks at his freed hand, swearing that for a moment he thought Jin would destroy the second chain. Jin again asks, "Are you on humanity's side?" The monarch remains silent, and Jin questions why he won't answer. Is it because of the Pledge of Honesty? The mana crystal embedded in the back of your neck? As long as that is there, you can hear the ruler's command to kill all humans just like the other monsters. Grinding his teeth, Regia suddenly grabs at Jinwoo, but Jin dodges it and says to forget about the deal. It's too dangerous to keep you alive. He then plunges his dagger into the giant king's chest. As Regia begins to lose strength, he tells the shadow monarch that he is wrong. The true calamity isn't him, but Sung Jinwoo. Handing Jin the eyeball, he suddenly tries to bite a piece of his head, but Jin quickly ducks and stabs the King of Giants once again. Regia swings at him again, but Jin swiftly evades and repeatedly stabs him without hesitation. Regia tells Jin that the battles between the people of Earth and the denizens of the Chaos World will only grow more intense, turning Jin's world into a battlefield. He tells Jin that he hopes everything he wishes to protect will burn to ashes in the flames of war. Jin responds that it won't happen and instantly blitzes the monarch, slicing his head off and defeating the dungeon master. The system then notifies Jin that he has defeated the monarch of beginning, Regia, one of the 9 monarchs. Saying it's a shame he couldn't turn the monarch into a shadow soldier, Jin instead takes the magical item as Regia's body fades away. Jin gains a huge number of levels and officially reaches level 122. Meanwhile, in America, a helicopter lands and 2 people walk toward the doors of a mansion. National rank hunter Christopher Reed says he wasn't expecting visitors today as he greets the deputy director and Lady Selner. They respond by saying they have an urgent matter to discuss and request that everyone leave the room. Telling his servant not to let anyone near the room until the 2 leave, Christopher asks what brings them to his home. He assures them that if it has anything to do with the S-rank gate in the east, he is not going. However, Lady Selner tells him they are not here to discuss the S-rank gate, but something far more serious, informing Mr. Chris that he may be killed in the near future.